Rod and I, we will go back a little while now. So we've got a bit of history there. So in terms of Orod's background, he's an agile coach. He's a public speaker. He's an accredited Kanban trainer. He's even a safe program consultant, scrum master, and would you believe, just to add to the mix as well, a food blogger, or vlogger, should I say, not blogger. He's trained a lot of people and helped lots of organisations in a variety of different industries so that they can utilise Kanban design for sustainable systems and support them gradually moving their business agility by focusing on the right work at the right time without necessarily changing job titles and organisational structures. So all of that sounds pretty good. How do we get a little bit more of that, Orod?
Yeah, you introduced me even better than myself, Jason. Thanks. Thank you very much. Yeah, I actually started, I love social media. And I think the first experience I had with social media was because I also love food. I started a YouTube channel, I think about maybe 5, 6 years ago. I started traveling and filming unusual food. But it's a really time-consuming thing, so I kind of stopped it. But if you search on YouTube, you will find my YouTube channel. But I think in last few years, I focused more on Kanban. Started talking about Kanban and practicing Kanban and introducing Kanban, and as you said, running certified courses. And also recently started a podcast, which is this one, if I can find it. Anyway, it's weird. This one, yeah. Kanban Lab. So you can find Kanban Lab on all podcast application and also YouTube.
Sensational. And
all right.
tonight you're here to talk to us about scaling Kanban. And picking the right time to scale.
That's right, yes. So as you probably know, most of you, you experimented how to introduce change into organization and help them to work better. But sometimes we start with a very, very big change. And we kind of ignore the complexity of the people who will be impacted. And very soon, at least based on my experience, they back to how they used to work. Maybe they run some daily stand-up, that kind of thing, but they don't actually see the benefits. So today, hopefully, I can share a little bit of my experience and how I help organization to evolve rather than through everything they've done and then start everything from scratch. I talked about the same topic a few months ago in the first Kanban Australia conference. So I tweaked a little bit for the meetup based on the feedback I received from people. So hopefully after this session, which probably takes around 40 to 50 minutes, you look at Kanban a little bit differently. And hopefully you leave with some question that help you to start reading and investigating and researching a little bit about Kanban, and also hopefully clarify and answer some of the questions that you already have. All right, so because you introduced me, so I don't need to introduce myself. So what I'm going to talk about today is, first, we define what agility means, because a lot of people probably have different understanding on different interpretation of agility. So I'll make sure that at least we all in this meetup and in this session, we all are on the same page about agility, so understand what agility means, and when I say agility, what I'm talking about. And I'll talk a little bit about 5 different companies that I recently in the last couple of years worked with. So I'll walk you through, how they introduced change and what was the result. And then I'll walk you through basically one of the successful experience that I have and how we can scale Kanban. So I'll talk a little bit about how to scale Kanban and also talk a little bit about the Kanban maturity model, which help us to find a solution that fit for the organizations based on their maturity and based on basically what they're ready for. So make sure the change is sustainable and solve their problem, not solve my problem. All right, so to start with, I like you to, and I have a mural board here. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. Please join the mural board, and I just put it in the chat. So when you join, you can click on this outline here on the top right. If you click on this outline icon and then click on Meetup Scaling Kanban. So there are 2 boxes, one for the question. So if you have any question, please feel free to grab a sticky note, put it on the parking lot, and then at the end, probably if we have enough time, maybe half an hour or something to go through the questions. But for now, I'll start the timer. I'll give you maybe 2 minutes. Just write, what does agility means to you? All right. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I put it in private mode so you don't see each other's answer. I don't want people's influence on each other. And I'll start the timer. Maybe 2 minutes should be enough. All right, 10 seconds left. All right. I'm running a very, very small business. I still need to give them what they need when they need. Right? But when you have a large company with lots of people, that makes it a little bit more difficult, especially when we work with knowledge work. So I used to be a developer. I was a developer for maybe over 10 years or so. And after that, when I changed my career, work as an agile practitioner, I spent a lot of time with startup. So even after I changed my career completely, still work with startup, and I still working with startups. So in this presentation, I collect some data from some of the startup and also a couple of large organizations to show you, what the problem they have and how they introduce change, because they are completely 2 different entities. They have different problem, and their approach to scale up, it's very different, but the result in both of them are very similar. So this is my personal experience. If you have different experience, I will be more than happy to share maybe at the end of this talk. So when I look at these companies, I look at 4 different factors. So the stability, the predictability of these companies, the communication, and the transparency. So I'll walk you through what I mean by that. So when you look at the startups, and this is the CFD or cumulative flow diagram. So in case if you're not quite familiar with that, so this line that shows demand, the customer demand. So basically the number of demands that come to this system, right? This company. And green line is the capability or capacities, basically what leaves the system or how much work they can basically deliver. As you can see, the demand is exponentially growing. It's much more than their capacity, which means people who work in startups, they're always under pressure and their predictability is very low because of the number of context switch. So they work on something, 2 days later, the CEO or someone comes and say, okay, stop working on this one. One of the customers says, work on this. Before they fix that, there is another high priority comes. So there are number of unplanned work pushed to the system. It's crazy. So if you haven't worked in a startup, I don't recommend working in startup. It's not fun. And so I work with so many of them, and they're all the same. This chart, which we use it in Kanban, we use this for predictability of the system. We call it lead time distribution chart or histogram. So this line shows the lead time, and this one is the number of work that they deliver. Normally, if this is the acceptable lead time, so for example, if it's like 3 weeks, they only can deliver maybe half of the work within their SLA. So the rest is always outside the SLA. And that's why everyone's under pressure and no one's happy. But communication between peoples is quite high. So people talk to each other. Everyone knows who is working on what, who is good at what, you know, they're familiar with their culture, the background, all those kind of things. And transparency is also quite high. Always, at least based on my experience, the vision of the company frequently communicated with everyone on the same page until they sell the company. So how they want to scale, and when they want to scale, they want to scale really, really fast, right? For example, from 20 people to 100, 200 within a year. So they grow really fast. At the beginning, they work like a community. They have a very strong network. People like each other. The work pressure is high, but because they like each other as a human and they have a strong relationship, so they work even after hours. I work until 10 o'clock sometimes. But when they want to scale, they all follow the same approach. They start hiring some managers and start building silos. And what happens is the stability dropped. Predictability also dropped. They used to have good communication. Now they don't have good communication. People compete. All the managers start competing. They don't share, who is working on what. If you need to talk to someone, it needs to go through the managers, all those kind of things. And transparency drops. And what happens is people leave the company. People who work there for a few years, they start leaving because they hired someone else outside of the company. I was there for 5 years. They hired this manager outside. So what is my future here? I just work hard and, no one even see. So they leave. But when you look at the large organization, surprisingly, at least again, based on my experience, and this is real data, stability is quite high. The demand and capacity is, it grows with the same pace. Predictability is also not too bad. So almost 70% of, what they commit, they deliver it to their customer. Context switch is low. The quality of the product is relatively high. So they work in a very stable, predictable environment. And you can see that people work there for over 20 years. because they have a work-life balance kind of things, right? Which I've never seen in a startup. There is no work-life balance. People not even familiar with that concept. But they don't talk to each other, don't necessarily know who is doing what. They don't necessarily know who is actually in, in development team, who is in operation. And I remember one day I asked them to demo the product to the people who is going to actually use it. And people who work together, are not together, but in the same company for over 20 years, they said, this is the first time we met developers. We didn't even know who built this product. And transparency is not quite high. When they want to introduce a change, they already have some silos, but what they do is they hire some consultant and they start breaking those silos very quickly. Maybe within a month, they restructure everything. And in fact, large organizations love restructuring. So the result, stability don't change that much. Predictability, again, similar. Communication, nothing changed. Transparency, a little bit increased based on, again, my experience. At least they start using, Jira or these kind of tools. So they have a little bit better visibility on what's going on rather than really, really old ticket management tools. I've added another one because when they start restructuring and introduce new roles and change job descriptions and all those kind of things, people get really, really confused. And very soon, maybe within a year or two, they basically back to the status quo and whatever they used to do. As I said, they still run some, Scrum event and stuff like that, but they're not really effective. And they call it hybrid. We are hybrid. So a little bit Scrum, a little bit Prince2, a little bit of everything. So what in both scenarios, startups and large organization, when they want to introduce change, what they don't consider is the people. They underestimate the impact on the people. They don't really see that these changes will impact the people who's actually doing the work. And people resist, from middle management to even people who are actually doing the work. So people resist the change. Everything happened. The first thing, agile doesn't work. And I keep saying, forget about agile. What is the problem? But they blame agile, they blame consultant, they blame the process changes. Another thing they don't consider is the organizational maturity. Are we ready? Maybe the consultant come with a perfect solution, but are we ready for those solutions? Because those changes has some impact. It cost us. Are we ready for that or not? And the last one is, at least in Kanban and myself, we look at organization as living entities. So they evolve over the time. This change is not going to happen very soon. People needs to practice, they need time. So this is something they need to consider, which they don't. And that's basically my focus today. So when we talk about Kanban, a lot of people, say Kanban is a board. So they've heard about visualization. Some people heard whip limit. Those who did a little bit in the, studied about Kanban, they might also talk about flow and flow efficiency and that kind of thing as well. But today, I don't want to focus on those practices. What I want to do, and if it happens, I think I will be very happy and I will be successful, to change your, to basically help you to see Kanban from different angle. which is Kanban as a change management. I like to talk a little bit about the evolutionary approach of Kanban change management, which is against the revolutionary change that all the company does. So they break everything they've done and build it from scratch. That's not something we do in Kanban. In Kanban, we believe in evolution. And I'll try to explain a little bit more today. So to do that, we use tools, we call it Kanban maturity model, to assess organizational maturity. So we identify the maturity of the organization and try to find a sustainable solution, the solution that sticks, the solution that they're ready to accept it. As I said, not the solution that is good for me, the solution is good for them, the solution that actually solves their problem. Kanban maturity model helps to improve organizational maturity, not Kanban. So it doesn't matter if you use Kanban or not. This assessment still can help you to assess your maturity and help you to evolve. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the J curve or not, but you can Google and you find a lot of article about J curve. So basically, when we introduce a change, normally the performance drop at the beginning. If the change is big, this performance drop dramatically. And at some stage, senior management, they say, oh, this change cost us a lot. Forget about it. Back to how we used to work. And that's basically where they call it hybrid. So they used to do Prince2. Now they do whatever. So it cost us a lot. We spend a lot of money. Didn't really help us. Forget about it. Let's back to Prince2. But we started doing some sort of, Scrum practices or whatever. So they call it hybrid, right? In Kanban maturity model and in the evolutionary change management, what we want to do is to continuously introduce change, but small changes. So rather than have a very big J curve that has a very big risk and cost us a lot, so small change has a little bit cost and the risk is small. If it doesn't work, we can introduce another change, but continuously happen. Right? This is the goal. This is what we want to happen. So Kanban maturity model has different level of maturity. The first one, we call it obvious. Sometimes you go to an organization and you realize that there is no process. No one knows who is doing what. The only thing we know is everyone busy. It's basically chaos, right? No visibility, no communication, nothing. Customer has no trust. There are so many individual heroics, which means there are some jobs always go to some particular people. Or even customers said, can you ask this person to fix this for me? I don't trust anyone else. She did it before and I was happy with her. So I want her to work on that. Not anyone else. I don't want that, right? This is maturity level 0 or obvious. When we are in this level of maturity, what we start doing is to introduce a personal Kanban, something similar to the one I have for myself, right? So we basically say, okay, you don't need to do anything. Just visualize what you do for yourself. Maybe your manager also can have a look, but you don't need to share with anyone else if you don't want to. If you want it, that's okay. You can do it. I introduced Kanban to school, to primary students. And maybe in a separate talk, I can share that experience. So they've been in level 0. Student didn't want to share their task or whatever with other students. They didn't trust other students because kids can bully, right? So I said, okay, just show your task to your teacher. This is your board. You don't need to show anyone else, right? So after a while, when they get used to this visualization, first of all, they realize why I'm so busy. So I'm working on 20 different things. I switch between so many things. That's why I'm very busy, right? Plus, they get used to the process, right? It become a kind of a norm. It become part of their DNA. And that's where they can evolve and go to the next level. So the next level is team focus. So the scope of work, it's still individual task. But what we do is, because in personal Kanban, we realize, or they realize, that I'm working on something, but I can't actually move it to done until someone else review, for example, my work or test my work or whatever. So they realize there are some dependency, right? So what we do is we basically combine those personal Kanban into one, because now they see themselves as part of a bigger team. Now they trust each other. Maybe not completely, but at least they realize there are some dependency. And there is some benefit if we put all the work in one board. However, still, I want to see my own work. I'm a developer. I'm not going to help the tester or whatever. But that's okay. You can put my work next to the tester. So I know that I'm blocked by that tester. Or if this tester needs anything, he knows he was the developer and who can go and talk to. After a while, when again they get used to this process, when at this stage you might be able to run a team meeting, like a daily stand-up or something like that. Now, what happens is, after a while, is that they see themselves completely as a team. Now there is a trust between these people. So now they can see that we need to help each other to actually solve the customer problem, not just ourselves, but our work, it's for the customer. It's not for me, it's not for my boss, it's for the customer. So they focus on the product or the service that they're working on. Now there is a process in the system. So people are used to the process. Now we have some policy. People are clear about the working agreement, all the meetings that we have, and we can visualize the entire flow of the work, not just what I'm working on, but the entire workflow. From when customer raise the demand and how this work flow through the system until the customer demand fulfilled and customer said, thank you very much, you've done a very well done. So at this stage, we have a team board. So we don't have really personal Kanban anymore. We have a team board. Right? We have upstream, which is the options, things that we haven't committed. So we need to do some sort of triage analysis, maybe some minor design to understand and learn the problem before we actually commit to the work and start actually building and solving the problem. And it's quite common that we limit the work for the entire team, not for different stages of the workflow. And then maturity level 3, that's where we have the agility in the organization. So now we can promise to the customer and deliver the work to the customer when customer expected. At this stage, we have a satisfied customer. So we are predictable and we have a sustainable, basically, solution. So we build a sustainable solution, but it gradually happens, right? So we have the entire value stream. We have different types of work. You might have different customer with different expectation. We visualize our commitment points. So when we committed and when the work is done by this team and it's ready for the next team. So we have the entire value stream end to end at this stage. We start collecting the work that is discarded, which is basically what customers said. But before we commit, we realize that we're not going to work on that. It's either low priority or it was just a maybe customer didn't know how to use the product, or we don't even want to fix it. It's actually a desired behavior, those kind of things, or customer changes mind, right? But before commitment point. And start collecting after commitment point. So after we committed, the priority changed, right? So we start collecting because that's the waste. After we committed to deliver and customer changed their mind, or for whatever reason we want to abort the job, so this is a waste. We want to collect to see why it happens. If it's too much, then there is a problem. Maybe there is a problem in upstream. Maybe we need to do a more discovery, or there is a problem in the system, we need to resolve it. There are more level, but the first 4 basically are quite critical. And if you don't get to maturity level 3, which you have business agility, there is no point to go to the next level of maturity. If you want to learn about Kanban maturity model, of course, the best reference is the Kanban maturity model written by David Anderson and Theodore Bojora. But it's a very big book, very difficult to read. It's not very easy. And if you're lazy like me, so you can use this one. So I simplified it. I also asked the Kanban maturity model team to review the self-assessment toolkit that I created. It's kind of a summary. So there are 20 simple questions. It's a self-assessment and easy to use. So if you're interested, you can download from my website and have a look. And also there is a summary of these 4 different level of maturity and how you can go from one level to another as well. So there are 2 PDF that you can download. And I started using it with some teams. And if you use it, I will be really appreciated if you give me some feedback and tell me how it works. Was it useful or not? All right, so scaling Kanban. These 2, this slide and the one after, so both are from Kanban University. So all the credit will go to Kanban University. So when we talk about scaling Kanban, we can scale Kanban horizontally and vertically, right? So for example, you might have epic feature story task, which is the vertical kind of board, or you can do it horizontally. So to visualize the entire flow from the start to end, all right? My focus for this presentation, I will show you how I horizontally scale the Kanban, but you can also scale it vertically as well. So when you want to scale Kanban, never do the whole organization to start with, right? So you can start creating Kanban independently, and then like a puzzle, right? You can just put them together when they're ready, right? All right, so how I use KMM to help one of the team. So I follow a few different couple of steps. So first, I use KMM to understand the maturity of this team and organization, where they at, what is the context. Then, what makes people dissatisfied? Because when people not happy, then that motivates them to accept the change. And then design a solution to actually solve the problem they have, implement the change, and start measuring what actually matters. Because if you don't measure, then you don't know if your solution actually solved the problem or not. So just to give you a little bit of context, so this case study is about a team with 12 people, really experienced people who works on a legacy application, relatively stable application, and each specialized on what they're doing. They started practicing Scrum for over a year, and they've been doing 2 weeks sprint, and the release done by a separate team. And the release cycle, they had a fixed release cycle which haven't been aligned with 2 weeks sprint. So after sprints finish, nothing goes live. Right? And also they had different stakeholders. So this is the data I pulled from this team for about 6 months. As you can see, not quite predictable. So every sprint, you know, there are lots of up and down, lots of unplanned work pushed to the sprint, and every sprint, always something's carry over to the next one. Then I ran that self-assessment. So I asked them to assess themselves. And I realized that they are in team focus. So they still focusing on the individual, but yes, they are a team. So they know there is dependency between them. But management wanted to see who is doing on what, right? Make sure people have enough work, or make sure not everyone's too busy, right? They had some confusion about, you know, the estimation and, you know, all those kind of things. They didn't have enough visibility on the entire workflow. So they say, oh, sometimes we're surprised. We go to backlog refinement, and then someone come and say, okay, we need to work on this. We need to know what's going to happen, what is in the pipeline. So I had a little bit, you know, prediction about the future, what happens to us, what comes to us. We don't have visibility on what goes to done at the end of sprint, but it's not actually released to production. So it was difficult for them to track what's actually it's in production and what's waiting for release. And also because they had different stakeholders had different expectation or service level agreement, right? So operation, it was about 2 weeks, 14 days, which I'll show you. So I categorize them in 5 different source of dissatisfaction. So when we want to make the change, I wanted to measure and see how we can improve, or if we can improve. Then before design the solution, I look at, okay, so who is the customer? What the customer wants and when. And also how this work actually goes through your system. Because they had a very simple workflow at the beginning, which I'll show you shortly. So when I asked them, okay, who is the customer? They basically said we had 3 customers, operation, 14 days SLA, and they called it bugs. There was another customer or stakeholders, business. They called the work item that, you know, comes from business. They called it stories. And the expectation was 60 days after commitment. And we also had technology as one of the customer to improve the platform and upgrade and, you know, tech debt and those kind of things. Again, the SLA was 60 days. So another things they wanted was, especially the management, they said, okay, when we look at this board, we don't know who is doing what. And also we don't have enough visibility on the entire flow. And if you remember, they've been in team focus. Team focus is a combine or merge of personal Kanban, right? So what we start with was to change this one, which after commitment until done took 2 weeks, 2 weeks sprint, right? So we added some swim lane for individuals. We add some whip limit, and we move the cards for individuals. So now everyone know who is doing what. They practice it for a while, When they build the trust and they've been ready, then we combine the board. But one of the problem was this workflow, it's not complete. It doesn't show everything. It doesn't show all the major stages of the workflow. So we added a few column first, one buffer for testers, and this is the end of this or the end of the boundary, right? So the team start doing it until it's ready for release. After release, they didn't know, what happened basically, right? So it was another team responsibility, and this is what we call it service delivery. Right? So after release, there was another team. So we visualize it. As you can notice, we are scaling the Kanban horizontally. So we had a very short one. Now we are scaling it horizontally. So now we can see, we can differentiate between the works are ready and waiting for release and the one are releasing and the one actually released and done, which is called downstream. They wanted to have some prediction about what's happening, right? So we started implementing or designing the upstream Kanban. So the BAs work, product owner, or not necessarily BAs or product owner. In analysis, you can have technical people, you can have designer, you can have developer, whoever, doesn't matter. So we don't manage people, right? We focus on the work. And then different swim lane for different type of work or different customer. Move the card on the right swim lane to make sure that we deliver enough work for all customers, and track separately to make sure that we can deliver the work when the customer expected. If not, why is that? So after about 6 months, this is the histogram or lead time distribution chart. So red is the bugs or the operation work, and green is platform improvement and the change request. So the SLA with the operation for bugs was 14 days. So you can see that 96% of the bugs delivered within the SLA. Almost 60% of the change request delivered within 15 days, because every 2 weeks they had a kind of a demo to the stakeholders. So we still wanted to have something to demo every now and then, every 2 weeks, to get some feedback and also give them some visibility on the progress as well. But the amazing one is this. So 100% of the work delivered within the 60 days of agreement with the business and the technology. So, and then we had a self-assessment again on those 5 different categories of the dissatisfactions, and you can see that they had some significant progress, especially on the visibility of the work. And there are some takeaways based on my experience. Always start with the problem, understand the problem. So what is the problem? What makes people unhappy? Understand the organization maturity. So look at the organization as a living entity, organization run by people, not by robots. And peoples are different. And also different organization has different maturity and different needs, right? Some organization needs more agility. Some organization needs less agility, right? So we need to understand the problem. We need to understand if they're ready for the solution, design a solution that they're ready for the problem. Always look at the people, consider their complexity. Don't underestimate people. Very complex. We are very complex. Always start with something small and just gradually evolve rather than a very big change, and start measuring. As I said, if we don't measure, we don't know if we solve the problem or not. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. please be in touch. As I said, where is that? Here, Kanban Lab. You can find me and my friend Soma on podcast, any podcast repository, as well as YouTube. As you can see, I also spent some money, bought some high quality microphone. Please listen and also be in touch if you have any question. Let me know. And yeah, I will be really appreciated if reach out and ask question. All right.
Outstanding. Thanks, Orod.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, everyone.
And Mentor Beacon. I just wanted to also promote a initiative that this meetup group, in collaboration with the Adelaide Agile community, have initiated, which is a mentoring program for Agile professionals. So there are a number of mentors and mentees that have already started the program during Q4. So we will take on board new requests for mentees, like mentee seeking a mentor in the Agile space. And you can find all the information on the Scrubcraft website. There's the program playbook, which will tell you all about it. And other information. We've got a set of mentors that are already engaged this quarter, but we also have plenty of matches still to make as well, and some very capable people that are still in that pool. So if you wanted to register to be a mentor or to be a mentee, you can register from the website, and it takes the information. We have similar information about the mentors, and we match people in terms of what they would like to experience as part of a mentoring relationship. So there are just a quick questionnaire in here as to the professional development areas that you'd like to focus on, and you know, what your existing role is and how we can get in contact with you and that sort of thing. So it's really talking about maybe a 4-session commitment over 3 months, and it's free of charge. So there's no cost involved. So you can connect up with people that have similar interests to you, and seek either being a mentor for other people or to be mentored by somebody. And we're running it quarter by quarter at the moment. So if that's something that you'd like, just navigate over to the Scrumcraft website, and it's under Mentor Beacon in the side here. Thank you again to everybody that attended, and also a very special thanks to Orod. We have recorded the session. Orod has been very gracious in offering a PDF as well, but at the very least, in the short term, we should have a recording up on the YouTube channel. All the best, guys, and have a good night.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
See ya.